Testing.
Okay, is everyone ready? We'll wait for Britt here momentarily. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Virginia City Council Chambers. This is a regularly scheduled Committee of the Whole working session meeting. I'll call this meeting to order. Today's date is Tuesday, March 18th, 2025. The time is 9 a.m. We have a full agenda today, and we have some appearances, and we'll move forward with our agenda. So we'll turn this portion of our committee of the whole meeting over to our city administrator, Britt C. Bennis. Britt?
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is an appearance by Matt Reed from SEH, and the first one is the resolution for the professional services agreement for 14th, 20th Southern Drive and Chestnut Street construction project.
Thank you. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning. So that is that agenda item. We are opening bids here next week, and so just trying to be prepared to get rolling on that, and I'll be happy to answer any questions on this if anybody has any.
I'll move the resolution.
Councilor Johnson moves to approve the resolution for the professional service agreement with SEH for the ongoing street project, supported by Councilor Friedlieb. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, please.
Okay, next item is we did open bids for the mill and overlay project. Very favorable bids again. That was nice to see. So we're just looking for council action to award that project. We did bid it originally as with an alternate, and it looks like we do have the budget based on the discussions that we've had internally with staff. We do have the budget to go ahead and move ahead with the alternate. So that would be my recommendation to award the project, including the alternate.
Move to approve by Councilor Friedlieb. Is there support?
Support.
By Councilor Paulson. Further discussion. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you. Matt, will you clarify what this mill and overlay project, where it is, please?
Yes. We are over on north of West Chestnut Street on 15th and 14th Street. We are on 11th Street for a block between 5th and 6th, yep. The alternate was Hazel Avenue over on the southeast part of town by Southern Drive. And then a small stretch of 4th Street right off the end of the Highway 169 bridge coming in, going into the industrial park.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Matt. This is your next item as well?
Items at Matt, it's the review the preliminary research and estimates for the Gulf barrier.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I certainly can start the discussion on that.
Thank you.
Last fall sometime, I think it was, or late last fall, Britt reached out to me and asked about what it might be like, or what it might take, or what if it was possible to put a safety net out along the golf course. I don't know what hole that is there, but to keep balls from flying over to hitting the houses. So I took a look at that, very high level at this point. There are some obstacles in the way. There is a power line over there, trees. Is it possible to get it in there? Probably. Sorry, I'm paging through trying to get to my exhibit here. I found it now. Is it possible to get it in there? Anything's possible. At what expense, I guess I don't know. Just real high level, the net, I just pulled some quick numbers, and I know it's a big range, but it just really depends on a lot of factors. It's $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 probably to put it in, and then that doesn't count anything for if we have to relocate the power lines or anything like that, but they would be in the way as they sit today. So I can maybe just pause, and if you want to have some discussion or ask any questions, I can try to answer them.
I do, and then we'll go to Councilor Paulson. I think it's important for us to find a way in which to do this potentially. I know that, there's a lot of case law with respect to this, but it's just for safety purposes. My question is that it's not just the netting itself, and for that, it's also what's it going to cost to cut the trees down, that additional fence that we stopped, that has to be completely redone too, so there's an added expense for that, because it's not just the Gulf barrier for that one section that we replaced, it's the Gulf barrier for an entire road all the way down there. So those are other costs that would be incurred, and I would look forward to, as we discuss this, to find, some preliminary estimates to do the whole thing, not just the fencing or the barrier itself. So thank you. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Matt, for addressing this issue. And I believe that we had voted, it was quite a while ago, that we had voted to look into this and make a commitment for public safety of the residents in that area. And I don't know, so when you're saying 20 feet high, how high is a two-story house? So I'm just saying, if we're going to do it, if we're going to get an estimate, let's make sure that whenever the golf balls are flying, that whatever the height distance to protect the houses along those two areas, basically, it would be high enough to protect housing structures. And when I look at the expense, yes, there is an expense to this, but going forward, I had a representative of the neighborhood contact me maybe 3 weeks ago. And because of what has continued to happen, their homes are getting hit, their siding is being damaged, their cars are being hit. There was a pedestrian that was hit. I was told that now instead they will be making insurance claims against the city of Virginia. So if you take that into consideration, that residential area, if they do have damage, are going to start making claims, though that claims, I know we have insurance for that, but that probably could add up to as much as the cost of actually putting a public safety barrier to protect residential, the homes there, as well as people walking. And I'm glad Eric is still here, Deputy Chief, because I have a question. If this might fall into a public safety category, is there any grant that we could all work together on with a public safety grant to maybe help offset the cost of this in terms of creating this barrier for public safety reasons? Okay, I appreciate that frankness, because I thought maybe there might be something out there under public safety, but if we could look toward maybe some grant sources for this, and I don't know if we could also compare that once you get some more additional information, if we could see where the golf course would be at in terms of their overall budget. I know we paid for golf carts. I'm not sure what the cost of, can't remember what the cost of those golf carts were. But to me, this is a public safety issue. And if the residents are going to continue to be hit with golf balls, even though they know they live there and they know it's a golf course, they have lost that protective barrier with some of the tree removal that has happened. And that was caused a lot by storm damage, the actual trees that needed to be removed. The last question I have is in terms of where those power lines are, could this be moved in further into the golf course property further to not have to interfere with any power line?
Yeah, we could certainly try to move, again, this was a real high level, real quick snapshot of what the existing conditions look like. There's no real, call it design thought put into it. It'll just encroach on the fairway a little bit more, because we gotta have, you imagine you got this big net, it's gonna blow back and forth, even though it's taut, but it's gonna blow back and forth. And so we've got to maintain some semblance of clearance from the power lines for obvious reasons. So that how far in it would have to go, we've got to look into that a little bit more.
And then would there be any LCCMR funding for this?
I don't know.
So I guess I'd like to have us put our heads together in terms of funding. And then as the mayor says, maybe as a total overall project for public safety on the perimeter of the golf course. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And just to add on to that, Matt, if doing some research, looking at what some other golf courses have, particularly in the high desert areas, looking and talking to those professionals moving forward, And we do have that ability to bring it in a little bit further. We did that with the fence. The part of the fence that we did repair and replace, we moved that in closer to the ferry, but still in the rough. It doesn't encroach on the integrity of the golf course itself. So that, we took that away from the power line as well. But that was only a partial construction, number one. And the second part of it is looking at the apex of the golf balls that are hit off of the number 2 fairway. Now, 20 feet will stop a lot of the golf balls from getting over the fence, but not all of them, because the apex of the ball that's hit, depending upon how horrible the golf shot is from the tee box, or even the second shot, it'll go over that 20-foot fence. So the apex portion of it is something to take a look at as well. So this wouldn't stop everything, but it certainly would go a long ways in which to mitigate as much as we can. So looking at all those things, bring those forward, and I think in deference to your comments, Councilor Paulson, that we look at grant opportunities moving forward. And I think the public safety grant that was awarded to the fire department is for the EMS and fire-related issues, but we do have the ability to apply for grants related to that, so thank you. And any other questions regarding that? We look forward to some additional information moving forward in investigation. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for being here today, Matt. Is this a seasonal net or a year-round net? And what does it look like for replacement? How often? I guess those are questions I'm not going to ask you to ask now, but I'd like to see that moving forward, because if it's a big investment to start, how much are we going to get out of that, and how do we plan either staff time and/or replacement costs? Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you. And added on to that, Councilor Johnson and the rest of the staff, is that if you take a look at the driving range over there at the golf course, there's a big net that's up there. I'm sure the quality of the netting at the driving range is a lot less quality than what we'll be looking at on the number 2 fairway. But, we've cobbled together that, replaced that line many times. The wind over the year, it's up there all the time. It blows out, it tears apart. And when the people using the driving range are slicing the ball or hooking the ball into that netting, well, there's holes in there, and there's balls across the road into the ditch all over the place. So we wouldn't want a type of protective barrier that would be of that low quality. So, thank you. Anything else for Matt with respect to continuing to work on innovative ways in which to get this project done? Councilor Freely.
I know nothing about the golf course or the logistics of the golf course. Has there any been discussion, like if it's a north-south fairway along the residential area, couldn't you adjust that to the southwest and replace the green to a further away? I mean, so you're getting away from, I don't know. I'm just thinking there's got to be some other ways. And then I remember Brian saying he did some research into that area also, and there was potential restrictions on pilings that could be put down in that area and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of considerations that need to be taken into consideration. But I'm thinking in terms of like the physical features of the golf course. It's never been changed, I don't know, and maybe it can't be, I don't know. But I would think if you're hitting the ball that way as opposed to that way, you're going to not be hitting them into someone's yard. So that would be something to at least look at.
Yeah, I think there's limited options with respect to the number 2 because it goes all the way up the fairway. So you can't move the tee box to the left because you're in the road. You can't move the tee box to the right because you even be more pronounced access to go over there. And so we can't dig in there anyway because of some restrictions we have with some investigation that's going on in there. So the green is straight ahead. The green would have to be moved to the right, take down all those trees that are on the right side, because the green is right by the fence, move that over there, but that encroaches in then to the other green that's coming the other way, the tee box on number 5. So, but something to take a look, whatever we can do. Thank you. Okay, anything else? Okay, thank you, Matt.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. Item number 2 was David Corder from Permar was supposed to be here, but he couldn't make it. However, we have myself, Sean Lewis, and Deputy Chief Jonason here to talk about number 2A and 2B, the quote for the access control for the Virginia Public Safety Center.
Okay, thank you. As we move forward with that, do we have any other contracts with Permar for any other access controls? Or is that we have them at the Iron Termoise Event Center?
Yes,
And that's been working flawlessly?
and City Hall.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis? Good morning, Mr. Sean Lewis from
Morning.
Madison. Good morning.
Always a pleasure to be here.
If I may, Sean, before you jump in.
I'm sorry.
If I may, this one's a little, these are a little different than what Sean normally presents. These are normally, Sean usually brings forward Kraus Anderson proposed items, and Sean's here to talk about budget with us because this isn't the budget. However, these are contracts that we would execute as a city outside of Kraus Anderson's contract, but we need to do it soon because they're doing wiring right now. So they're moving really fast at the Public Safety Center, which is really good. So they're asking questions about the access control and the cameras that we need to solidify by approving the quotes for the access controls and the cameras, so that the people that are doing wiring can continue and finish their job.
Okay, thank you. I guess we're fine with that then.
So I'm really here to field any questions related to the overall budget or anything related to the other things to the project safety, the new public safety facility.
Okay, if you could just hold that for a moment. And so.
Yes, sir.
My question would be, the access control for Public Safety Center and the camera system, is the camera system tied into Permar as well?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm fine with whatever, it's all been vetted out already. We know what the cost of the budget is going to be. This is the company that's going to, we're looking at approving the quotes for that moving forward. But I just want to make sure that whatever we do here, we don't repeat what happened with the access control and the camera system that's currently around the city of Virginia. It was a nightmare years ago, and we had that problem with the data processing thing and with the trial software and all that kind of stuff created a myriad of problems. And so this is a professional organization that's established over the years. They provide this service moving forward. And so I'm comfortable with that staff recommendation moving forward. So we'll go from left to right, Councilor Paulson, and then over to Councilor Johnson. Councilor Paulson.
Mayor, so Britt, as I'm reading this page, I'm on page 22 and 23. It's, thank you, Sean, sorry. I'm just going to ask specifically about Permar, is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Go ahead, Counselor. Of course.
Commercial access control system, and then the other is the commercial surveillance system. And so this is basically leasing, not leasing, but it's, well, rent,
Leasing, rent to own, basically. Yeah.
but there's no length of time stated. And I know like normally with a Permar agreement, it's just a monthly fee. And then if you need new equipment, you can usually call them and they come in. Like, is there a length of time on this in terms of, here's the fee per month for both of these systems, and then what happens in 5 years if it's outdated?
And I do believe that is 5 years, like you're correct.
Is
And I
it
will get
5?
that- Yeah, there is a master agreement, which I see I didn't include in here. This is specifically the equipment, but when we get to the point of the Permar-owned agreement for the monthly fee for this maintenance and the upgrades, that has a master agreement that goes with it, and I will get a copy of that for the council meeting to put in the packet as
Okay,
well.
so we're not actually paying for the equipment, it's just leasing or renting or monthly, like a monthly charge to utilize the equipment?
Correct. And it's the installation is the key, and we're getting to be that time very soon that we're going to need Permar to help with the installation. So Sean's shaking his head, yes, it's coming fast.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And so we've been working with Permar for months. Not that we haven't delayed on this, we've been trying to fine tune this, I think, since we started this project, Sean.
Yeah.
We've been working on this, on getting the exactly right, and Eric Jonason's shaking his head too, trying to make sure we have the right doors with the right locks, with the right system, the right ability to unlock doors, the right ability to lock down all the doors. It's a big building and it's got a lot of doors.
Correct. There's a lot of
access.
coordination that's still going on behind the
So we need to
scenes.
get this handled sooner than later.
Yes, ma'am, please.
And then I guess the one question that I have then, this is all inclusive, the pricing that we have here, that includes their installation, their wiring. It does not, we don't have to pay any more additional electrical fees. I mean, you're wiring it in right now.
Correct.
And what if they say, okay, we need this, this, and this? Will that be a change order with wiring then?
Depends on what it is. You know, for the most part, we've accounted for some of those incidental things.
Okay,
Yep, and we're, like I said, we're continuing further coordination behind the scenes, but we've done an awful lot already up to this point, so we should have most everything pretty well dialed in.
and then the other financial piece to this, Britt, at $53,498 a year, will that, I don't know, Sherry's not here, is that that's a new expense for that department? Will that now then need to be a budgeted item for 2026?
Correct.
So we would, or would we start paying in 2025?
That's a great question. I will ask that question too.
Is that we do
Yeah.
not have in the budget?
It wouldn't be till they were installed, so it would be,
And can we use the part of the project dollars to allocate for this, even though it's a monthly payment?
For operational expenses, that'd be a Brit answer. I can say for the installation portion, we do have specific dollars budgeted right now for that, for these types of things, like card access and surveillance and some of the other items that
So maybe that
Deputy
needs
Chief
to
will
be
be
broken
discussing.
out.
we do have interest funds because we did invest the money
Okay,
that we intended to use for these operational things.
so could you bring all the financials forward and then the full contract? Thank you,
So
Mayor.
today, to break this down, to make it easier, what we really need to is approve the equipment installation. We can work out the monthly agreement once the agreement comes, but they do need to get the equipment ordered. They hope to have it by April, which is when Sean needs it for the building.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Britt did ask to include the copy of an updated budget too that has that line item for the technology and security allowance line near the bottom on this back page.
As long as the cameras and the card access system are the high quality and are impervious to the weather conditions, because we don't want those cameras failing when it's cold weather out there. We want to make sure they operate on a 24-hour, 7-day, regardless of the temperature. So we're hoping that, we want to make sure these are high quality moving forward. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I will move the quote for access control for the Virginia South Public Safety Center forward to the council meeting for final approval with a resolution.
Councilor Johnson moves to quote 2A. Is there support?
Support.
By Councilor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, I will move the quote for the camera system and monitoring for the Virginia Public Safety Center to the council meeting for final approval with a resolution.
Moved by Councilor Johnson. Is there support? Support by Councilor Freelieb. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Any more questions for Mr. Lewis with respect to the budget? Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Always a pleasure, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll be around while Deputy Chief is presenting some things too.
Okay,
Field
thank
any
you.
other questions? Yep.
Item number 3 is a request to approve the resolution for the contract lease for the copier in the police department.
So moved.
Moved to approve by Councilor Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
By Councilor Paulson. Further discussion? This carries over to the new building when they move in, correct? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 4 is a request to review the proposal for a Cry-Steel 14-foot replacement box for the Public Works Department. We do have Public Works Director Jim Rosford here.
I'll move approval.
Support.
Moved by Councilor Freely for approval, supported by Councilor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? You on? Hearing and seeing, I'm sorry, Councilor Motley.
I was just wondering, where was the money going to be coming? Was this in the budget?
Jim, you might as well come forward if you would, please, and answer Councilor Motley's question. It has been moved and supported. We're in the discussion period. Thank you. Jim Rosved, our Public Works Director. Morning, Jim.
Morning. I'm sorry I didn't hear that.
I was just wondering, obviously, it needs to be replaced. I'm just wondering where the money's coming from.
Sherry, do we have money in the contingency fund for that truck box or? That truck box will be anywhere from 16 to 26,000, depending once we get the box off. The box itself is 16,000, but there's a rail system, hydraulic system underneath that. We need to take it apart and deem it whether it's usable or not, so the cost might go down, but it won't go up anymore.
Thank you.
Yes, there's money in the contingency fund, but I think your repairs, we went through the budget this morning, your repairs and maintenance is already pretty high.
Well, and it's going to continue to be higher. Like I say, I can't tell you over and over again. This city is failing, the infrastructure, the equipment, the tools we're using. Something's got to be done about it. I mean, I don't have an option for another box for that truck. I'm looking for your answers for this.
Well, it has been moved and supported to move forward with it. There's monies available for that.
In the contingency fund.
Very good. So it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. I think these pictures say it all, that our Public Works Department has done everything possible to keep using stuff. We continue as a council to not provide the tools our staff need to do their job effectively. And I appreciate, Mr. Rosfit, you saying that our repair budget will continue to go wildly, I'm paraphrasing, wildly over budget because we're fixing things that would we invest in a new grader, a new snowplow, a new truck. Those repair costs and the time that our city staff spend repairing the repairs on the repairs would go significantly down. We often in this room talk about how we're kicking the can down the road for many, many things, and the can has been kicked to us too much. And I'm literally looking through these. It looks like my S10 pickup truck that needs to go to the salvage yard. It literally, the rust, the stuff falling off. My concern is that we're no longer providing safe tools for our staff to use. And that's really become a concern of mine over the last several months. So I think we need to approve this. Jim, is the chassis it's going on, how much life is left on that chassis of that truck?
That was actually a public utilities truck, something that was, I believe, given to us in the past. We did have a rebuild on the top half, the engine on it, so there is some life left in the truck, but the body itself or the box itself, there isn't.
And would this box be able to be, the new box be able to be moved should we ever buy a new chassis, and can that be done?
It would, an average life of a dump truck box in a municipality with salt and that is 10 years.
Okay.
Believe it or not, our department down there in the shop has really exceeded that on those. I mean, and that box was in kind of rough shape when we got it from Public Utilities. It was used to haul fly ash, which is also kind of an acidic, where it's rough on the box too.
It's a corrosive.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for that information, Jim, and I will be supporting this purchase.
Thank you. Councilor Motley? You got some more info? Councilor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. Jim, is this a brand-new box then? It doesn't state on the, doesn't state the model year.
Pardon me?
Is it a brand-new box?
Yes.
Okay. And it will go, the highest amount, it could be up to $26,346.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson. Okay, it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Item number 5A is the request to approve the 3-year service test agreement with FireCat.
Eric, would you want to please come up to the microphone and give us a synopsis tutorial on the FireCat?
So this is a continuation of the agreements that we've used for the last 9 years. FireCat provides testing, which is required by NFPA. They annually come test all of our fire hose, make sure that it doesn't leak, there's no rips, tears, bad couplings. Anything they identify, we take out of service. It's essentially a firefighter safety. So I'm just asking for a continuation of the services for the next 3 years. It does greatly reduce, we used to do this in-house when I first started 21 years ago. It would generally take us 2 to 3 months to test all the fire hose, and the quality of the testing wasn't great because we were busy running calls. They come up, spend 1 12-hour day with our department, and all of our hose gets tested, they reload it, and our apparatus are back in service.
And so just one question, the 3-year agreement, is it an increase from the previous 3 years?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I will move the agreement.
Counselor Johnson moves to approve the agreement. Is there support by Counselor Freelieb? Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
And item 5B is review the quote for station alerting system for the new public safety center. Don't walk away yet.
Chief?
In your packet, there's 2 quotes, ANCOM and Motorola, and I believe it's the fire's suggestion to go with ANCOM.
ANCOM, we're requesting to go with ANCOM. It is the far less expensive of the 2 quotes. Essentially, what the station alerting system is when a 911 call is received at our dispatch center down in Duluth. They send out encoded tones through radio frequencies. The system picks it up and it sends out an alert within would be the fire side of the building. The system also includes room controls for, say, training room, EOC, so if PD's in there and they don't want to listen to all of our tones coming and alerting our staff of calls, they can isolate that one room as well as a couple other rooms. This one's upgraded. Multiple studies have been done showing the effect of abrupt tones on firefighters, heart rates, things like that. So this is a progressive tone. It'll start soft, get louder, so it's not such a literal hammer of noise being thrown at our staff. Also, it includes audio visual, so we'll get the audio notification, the visual notification, since we do have one hearing impaired paramedic. And then specially designed alert strobes and tones for our apparatus bays, which can get loud with saws running, people wearing hearing protection, things like that. So the system, as designed, should easily last the next 40 years, minus lightning strikes or power surges that we can't predict.
This is similar to the same kind of system. Actually, from what is described in the packet, it's kind of an upgrade. When we toured the other facilities where they have these tone alert systems throughout the rooms area and showed how that operates and how that works. And this is, no matter where you are, when that tone alert comes out, you're notified right away instead of having a call come in. So this system is needed, is prudent, and I'm not happy about what it's going to cost, but it certainly is a reasonable cost associated with what the others are. So thank you for that. First, Councilor Johnson, then over to Councilor Paulson. Councilor Johnson.
I will move the Virginia Fire Phoenix G2 station alerting proposal.
Okay, Councilor Johnson moves to approve the quote for the station alert system for the public safety building. Is there support?
Support for discussion.
Support by Councilor Paulson for discussion. Further discussion, Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. So I was just looking too at the Motorola pricing. Why is that so much higher? And what, could you just maybe discuss some of the differences? And would there be any benefit to having the Motorola system?
For one, the biggest is brand. Stop talking with my hands. Sorry about that. The biggest is brand, Motorola. It's an international company where the Phoenix G2 is a subsidiary of Honeywell, another big company. But for one, you're looking at Coca-Cola versus maybe Sam's Club.
So the systems are, you're comparing apples to apples. It's just a lot.
As best as we can.
As
Yep.
best you could.
And with the Motorola system, they would require additional software on the county side, which I believe is another $75,000 to $80,000 for this alerting system to even work with what currently St. Louis County uses.
So it's compatible all the way around.
Should be. Yep.
Thank you, Counselor Paulson. Counselor Johnson.
Just have a wish question for you. Can the tones be customized to the call as a fire call within the station as opposed to the ambulance call or something like that?
So this, the ANCOM and both the Motorola can do that and dispatch it per unit, per call type. The biggest hangup with that right now is currently St. Louis County doesn't dispatch anyone other than Duluth Fire that way. So us, Hibbing, Cloquet all get dispatched as a department, and then we sort out what apparatus are responding, whereas Duluth Fire gets dispatched by apparatus, and I believe they pay St. Louis County separate for that.
Okay. So there's potential room for growth should,
Absolutely.
okay, thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Counselor Johnson. It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Freely.
Just real quick, so this is under the technology and security allowance for the construction budget then? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Freely. Okay, it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you,
Chief.
Try not to break anything else now.
Item number 6 is to discuss the financial statements for February 2025.
We did have a meeting this morning, a significant discussion on the entire budget in each department, asked some questions, looking for some clarification. So it was a good meeting moving forward. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to add or questions or comments at this time? Counselor Freely.
I'll just thank Sherry and Britt for the preparation they put together to allow us to have that meeting and inform us accordingly.
Thank you, Counselor Freely. Yes, a lot of staff work there, but very beneficial. Okay, next item, please.
Item number 7 is discuss the fire marshal position.
Okay. Assistant Chief Jonason and Chief Frederickson. Okay,
Morning, everybody.
morning, Chief.
So, some confusion on the fire marshal position, and I apologize for that. We stood before you over a month ago and talked about the potential need to go external. I think that's where we got a little off the rails there. Doing so would have meant we would have needed a personnel committee to address job description items. However, we did not need to go that route. We got a great internal candidate, Stephanie Smith. We're very anxious to get her on board. So whatever questions you have, we're ready.
Well, the question I have is the job description that was, that's being proffered by Assistant Chief Jonason. This is the job description that you're looking for, or are we using the job description we had before?
No changes. So the one that we used before.
Yep, the one I passed out to you is our current one, Fire Marshal Keel, Bill Greco operated under, we're not making.
So this is the same broad description with no requested changes? And personnel has had an opportunity to take a look at this? Counselor Paulson is Chair of the Personnel Committee.
Thank you, Mayor. I just did, but it was my mistake because I thought because of the external that we were changing it. And so when I got this, there was no date on here of when usually they say when they're updated. So I thought this was a new draft version that needed to be approved. So this is, what year was this done? Like, did we redo it maybe when Fire Marshal Clark was here? Is that about how long it's been?
I would guess 2020, 2021 was probably the last revision.
And,
somewhere in there. I don't quote that. It's somewhere ballpark.
And no changes were recommended going forward?
Right.
Okay, so I think that was a little bit of the confusion, was the external candidate. And now I think that's cleared up, so thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Johnson.
I will move to direct staff to prepare a resolution for the hiring of the proposed fire marshal for Tuesday's meeting.
All right, thank you. Motion by Counselor Johnson to move it forward for the recommendation of the fire marshal position with the internal candidate, Stephanie Smith. Is there support? By Counselor Freely. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. And this was the discussion that we had with the employee on current leave, correct?
Excuse me, Mayor?
Oh, cannot speak.
No, you cannot talk about
Okay.
anything.
So, excuse me for that mistake. So as we draft a resolution, could we have the start date on the date that's applicable? Okay, I apologize for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Paulson. It has been moved and supported to move this forward. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Thank you,
Thank you all.
Assistant Chief.
Excuse me. Item number 8 is review the updates to the travel policy. The latest updates I did bold. I don't know that it came out in color for everybody, but it's,
We're still at it. The
Working
travel
on it.
policy. Okay.
most recent modification was the emergency service duty travel and the removal of 3.2.5, that first sentence that says the city will pay for one personal phone call. We modified it just to say telephone, copying, fax, and other related expenses will be permitted only when necessary.
Counselor Johnson.
Again, under definition 1.1, say day travel, employees who need to travel for business purposes within the same day that is outside the regular normal functions or duties of their position, such as attending meeting, client visits, trainings, or other job related, shall do so as same-day travel. The travel must be necessary to fill job duties and support the organization's objectives. Same-day travel must be approved by the employee's direct supervisor before arrangements are made. Perfect. Employees should submit their travel plans, including the purpose of travel, destination, and estimate travel time at least 24 hours in advance when possible. That is completely contrary to the whole theory of same-day travel. That last sentence should be struck from it because it makes no sense. It is not same-day travel if you're going tomorrow. That is planning ahead for tomorrow's travel. So I don't understand why that's in there. Everything is covered by making sure it's approved by supervisors prior to that. If it's tomorrow travel, there's a different level, and we've got that covered in other places. That's my only concern, is that policy literally contradicts itself in the same paragraph. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian, could you clarify a little bit?
Thanks, Judge, or thanks, Mayor.
Thank you very much.
I've been in court all week. I
Thank you.
apologize.
Thank you very much.
I think what this definition of same-day travel is intending to cover, it doesn't, the definition's not looking at when the need to travel is discovered. It's talking about when the travel occurs. So basically, what my understanding of this definition is, and I think what the drafter's intent was, is that if the travel is going to be, say, from 7 o'clock in the morning until 7 o'clock at night, but you'll be back in the same day, then that's what this definition would cover. So there's no overnight. We're not doing extended conventions or anything like that. That's essentially, we'll drive down to the metropolitan area for a training, and we'll drive back on the same night because it's a one-day training and we're not staying anywhere. And that may be known about several weeks in advance, and they can plan that there's not going to be an overnight aspect to it, and it'll be returned on the same day.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarification.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Counselor Johnson. Counselor Paulson.
Thank you. So I'm also seeing the definitions under emergency service duty travel, and I appreciate you reflecting that after Chief Nicola had mentioned how difficult that would be for some of the emergency personnel that we have. I'm comfortable with the amended and changed language. So the only question I had, Britt, on the exhibits, did we do the exhibits the right way for whatever that was, 4.1, the reference? Okay, then I would move it forward to the council, next council meeting for approval.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson. Councilor Paulson makes a motion to move the travel policy to the city council meeting for additional discussion and action. Is there support for that?
Support.
By Councilor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 9 is coming from the Personnel Committee held on March 4th, 2025. The first one is approval to advertise for summer student workers.
So moved.
I'll move to approve by Councilor Beyondich. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Councilor Paulson. Further discussion. I have a quick question before we go to Councilor Johnson. So this is by application, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. No, excuse me. It says Park Recreations, Public Works, and Blight. Do any of our other departments need summer workers? Or have they requested them and they just aren't in the motion?
Question, I actually do need to talk, I was going to, after this motion, make a request to allow us to also seek baseball coaches. Registration is open for baseball, and we hire the coaches through our system, which is a reimbursed payment, so it's an in and out, zero sum gain for us, but we hire the coaches to do the background checks and such.
Yeah, that's under item 13 on our other areas of concern.
Correct.
Did
No, I don't have any-
did you want to move that up to?
Good after this motion for the summer student workers.
Okay, thank you.
I guess my question was more about, traditionally they don't, but the library, the fire department, police department, I mean, there's going to be a lot of moving happening, especially towards the end of summer. What does that look like? How do we plan to support those departments as well? And specifically, I'm thinking about the public library holds very large community events monthly, if not more often, and how do they get the support they need as opposed to as opposed to you know, and in my opinion, I understand budgeting, but 6 folks to help keep the city going during the summer is very limiting, especially since we're down several positions in some of those departments. So I just have concerns about if we're doing enough for the city over the summer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion support for the summer worker program. Is there any further discussion?
Do I not get an answer, Mayor?
Well, are you asking for an answer from
Well, I
who?
would like to know if that's, if those departments have been discussed.
Okay, well, let's talk to our city staff. What's that?
I believe it was discussed at the personnel level
Was it
regarding the
It was
library.
discussed at your personnel level with respect to these summer workers? If not, we'll go get an answer for Councilor Johnson from personnel if you discuss it there, and then we'll look at staff for some additional answers or other options moving forward for flexibility with the summer workers program. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. I do think it was addressed, regarding the library, it's student volunteers for summer reading, which would include some of those events that take place, and I think Jody would like to fill us all in.
Yes, so.
Jody Gribinowski, our library director, good morning.
Good morning. Yes, we have had summer help before. Knowing what the budget looks like, we created a volunteer summer reading program. Volunteers, we went through the personnel committee, and that's later on the agenda. So we don't have them yet because, of course, we have to get this all approved. And then our youth services librarian plans to visit the schools in May to hopefully recruit. We're hoping to also recruit some of our really active 6th graders who have been very involved in after-school programming to assist us with some of these events. Counselor Johnson's right. Some of our events, Big Truck is an example of 350 people, not including staff, in one day. So we need bodies to make sure that everybody's safe. Last year, we had a car that decided to drive through the event. So we want to make sure that we have enough staff on hand and enough volunteers to make sure that the programs are successful.
Counselor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much, Jody, for that. And I believe most of the department heads that were requesting any type of summer assistance from students were there in attendance at the Personnel Committee, including, Chad, was Chad there? Yeah, okay. And so we had also discussed that some of that would be in the blight department. And I feel like the Public Works, they would all just, I guess, migrate to where they were needed. That was my understanding?
Correct.
And it wasn't department specific?
Correct.
Okay. And that's what I got for you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Johnson?
Thank you. So if an adult wanted to volunteer to help with blight or mowing, is that something that can be done?
Different, that's blight mowing or what we're posting for. We can't take volunteers without talking to AFSCME. AFSCME has approved the library doing a volunteer program for youth specifically.
And I appreciate that information. I just feel like it just feels like we're creating this dichotomy of what's okay and what's not okay. And I know we've had interns here at City Hall in the past that have been amazing and helped out during the summer. And I would like to see us have an actual program if we're going to be utilizing volunteers regularly, what that looks like, how do people sign up for it, that kind of stuff for all departments, because we have a lot of community members who are willing to help out within the city. They just need to be given opportunities, especially for the city government proper. And I guess that's one of the things I would like to see at some point, being able to advertise, folks, here's what's available, come help us. Because there's a lot of people that don't want to serve on commissions. There's a lot of people who just want to help and do stuff, and I don't know that we provide enough information for those opportunities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Johnson. It has been moved and supported to hire the summer help student workers, advertise for summer student workers. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Mayor, if we may add the approval to seek applicants for the baseball program as well?
So you want to move up number 13 from other items of concern to approve the advertisement for seasonal baseball coaches?
I'll make that motion.
Support.
Moved by Counselor Motley, supported by Counselor Johnson. For item 13, under items of concern, to approve the advertisement for seasonal baseball coaches.
And umpires.
I'm sorry?
Can we add umpires also, Liz?
I'll amend my motion to include that.
Okay, so we'll add that to
Amended.
the, I didn't say umpires, it's just said coaches. So coaches and umpires, amending the motion to approve both. The second also. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Item 9B was approval of an LOU with AFSCME for summer 10-hour shifts for the 2025 summer.
So moved.
Move to approve by Counselor Johnson. Is there support? Is there support? Is there support?
I'll support.
Support in the nick of time by Counselor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Bachschnider.
Thank you. Do we do this for other departments as well? And what sort of precedent does this set, or is this something that we have historically done in the organization? Thank you.
Sherry, being the Human Resources Director, and Britt, I'll just give you a history. We had the same when I worked. We had 10-hour shifts for different departments for respect to efficiency, how that works, saves some money with 10-hour shifts as opposed to that sharing of duties when the people are having the days off. So I don't believe we've had a letter of understanding in the past regarding 10-hour shifts, but we may have. So I would refer to clarification. We have had that in the past. So could you address that, please, Sherry, for
Sure.
Councilor Bachschnider?
Mayor, council, yes, last year we did do that, and we did have a letter of understanding. It's only from 8 to when school starts, which allows, at the time, there was two girls in the accounting, to alternate whether Monday or Friday off, so someone was always in the office. Yes, it's offered to other departments, but it's based on if the department head can accommodate that. The police, they couldn't. So it's worked out.
Thank you. Moved and supported. Further discussion. Counselor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. The staff that utilized this summer, we're very grateful for it. It really helps with staff morale. It allows them to plan family time. It allows them to actually come into work when nobody else is here and do more work and get more done because they're not being interrupted. I believe that, and studies have shown that it actually reduces the amount of sick time they take. It reduces the amount of mistakes that are made because they're able to focus. I think that because the union is in agreement with this, it should be supported, and we should allow our administrative staff the options. And again, it's all based on what's available, based on the department head. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 9C was approval for staff to externally post the library maintenance position.
So moved.
Counselor Johnson moves to approve. Is there support?
I'll support.
By Counselor Freely. Further discussion. I just have one. This library maintenance position is necessary, obviously. We've had it in the past. It's a continuation of the services that are provided to the library. I just want to make sure that this particular position is flexible, that if help is needed in some other department when they're not needed at the library, that we can utilize them for that. Could we do that or not? Okay, we can. Okay, so.
Library Director Grabanowski here, so we could have.
Okay, so it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Jody?
Yeah, so in the past, so in our previous position, especially like snow removal and things like that, Jim has just let me know that, hey, I'm taking your person to do this, and that's fine, long as the snow is removed from the library before we open, and also that they could come back if something happened, because usually, it always happens all at the same time.
Yeah, and thank you for that. I just bring that up because I've had some inquiries about, is this just for the library? And we know that it's not, so I just wanted for the public record. So thank you for that, Jody. It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Item number 9D is the approval to allow for student volunteers at the library for the summer reading program.
I'll move.
Move to approve by Counselor Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
I'm sorry, who made the motion? I'm sorry, I was looking at the paper, so I apologize. Moved by Counselor Freely, supported by Counselor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh,
I'm sorry, Counselor Beyondich, I apologize.
And I want to thank Jody and the staff for this volunteer form. We looked through it at the personnel meeting, and it is very thorough. And I just want to thank you for taking the time to do that.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Beyondich. Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Jody Grabanowski, our library director.
I want to give credit to our new hire, our new youth services person, Crystal, and also to Leah, who has been at the library for a couple of years. They rock this. They went through all of the different options to make sure that we were covered. They wrote great job descriptions. So I have amazing staff, and they rock this particular thing. So I'm really hoping that we get some excited youth to volunteer this summer, because then we're hoping to eventually do a teen advisory board. So this is just the first step.
Okay, thank you. Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing, Counselor Freely.
I'd just like to add to that, since I've had the opportunity to attend some of the programming that's been done for our grandchildren. And when we talk about getting quality staff, we've got one in Crystal recently. And congratulations to all of us for hiring people that are of that caliber.
Thank you, Counselor Freely. Thank you. It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And item 9E is they approve the resolution for the PERA phase retirement option for Finance Director Sherry Erickson.
So moved.
Moved to approve by Counselor Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
Further discussion? I'm not sure if I can support this moving forward, so I'm only joking. I have moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Johnson.
Mayor, what are the next steps then for filling 6 pairs of big shoes?
The Personnel Committee will be meeting soon to start going over the job description with Sherry and figuring out a plan of how we're going to move forward.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, lot of things to discuss with respect to Sherry's position, both as a finance director and the human resources director as well. So it has been moved and supported. Congratulations, Sherry, moving forward for your longstanding service. We look forward to further discussion regarding your phased-in retirement. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Item number 10 is discuss the next steps for approving the proposed Virginia tree policy.
Okay, I just want to say that it is one of the most comprehensive policies I've ever had to read. And I understand the Park and Rec worked diligently for this, to get this accomplished. Look for the tree policy. I just have one issue with the tree policy. It is a policy. It is a recommendation on the part of the Park and Rec Commission for us to adopt this policy. But I want to make sure, we know this commission is advisory and it's very active. That being said, we have our department staff, which has the ability and the authority to remove trees when necessary. And I do not believe that under the policy, that's, I think, one of those sections of the policy, I don't know if it's on page 10 or wherever it is, where permission doesn't need to be made to the tree board before a tree is cut down. If our departments feel that the tree needs to be cut down, they'll cut it down for good reason. And then the tree planting policy is already in effect. We have that option moving forward. So of all the stuff that's in that tree policy that I could have some discussion over, that's the one thing I want to make sure that we have the authority to continue to remove trees whenever necessary without approval, prior approval. So that's my only thoughts and concerns. So anything, Councilor Motley?
I guess it was probably myself who requested this be put back on. As the liaison to Parks and Rec, they've discussed, the commission has discussed their frustration in this not being finalized in recent meetings. There are a couple members that are pretty upset that the continuation of trees is happening, and I have expressed that trees are not being taken down on city property unless they are a hazard, they're dying, or it's for future upcoming projects, or they're destroying the infrastructure underneath roadways, sidewalks, et cetera. So the city isn't deliberately taking down trees just to take down trees, but I do think we need to finalize something just to get this done. I am not okay with, it's on page 164 in our packet. It's under letter V for construction, where it says, where new city construction projects require removal of boulevard trees, the city shall submit notice, including plans to the tree board for review and discussion. I guess I'm not okay with this. I'm fine with the city moving forward with how they deem appropriate without the tree board's approval. So I guess for me, I would like to see that removed, which is letter A under, I guess, letter B for construction. That's the big one for me, but I would request that. For me, I'm fine with it besides letter V as in Victor under letter A, construction. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Motley. Councilor Johnson, then over to Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. Brian, have you reviewed this extensive policy?
Brian?
I have.
Thank you. I'm not in agreement with this lengthy policy. I know that the tree board has worked on it. None of our other commissions have authority to approve or deny anything other than the Public Utilities Commission, and that is an autonomous, quasi-autonomous thing. I have to agree that we're a city of 8,000 people with trees everywhere, and having a board determine whether or not a tree can be taken down especially when we only have a certain amount of time every year to take down trees due to EPA, MPCA, DNR, all the little letters that regulate this stuff it just doesn't make any sense. Government moves in its own direction all the time anyway. I don't understand putting another block to getting things done effectively. I have the whole Parks and Rec Board right now is also the tree board. And this has been eating up a lot of their time. I know several folks on it who have raised concerns as the Parks and Rec Board that this is too much. And I think, and Councilor Motley has, as she just shared, one or two people that may be calling and complaining about it. We need to do what's best for the entire city, for Parks and Rec, for trees in general. We just got an email about the potential of emerald ash borers being a problem. We may need to be proactive in taking those trees down so they don't affect us in the future. So I see there's this, is that I just skimmed the announcement. Is that a new announcement, or was that yeah, this is the one from December 2003, and if I remember right, there weren't a whole lot of people at that. So I think we need to simplify this, that the city has authority to do what they need to do, and we authorize our Parks and Rec people to take, if someone wants to plant a tree on city property, and that's what this all is. It's all about city property. I can plant a tree in my yard if I want to, is my understanding, correct? I'm getting nods from Pam and Brian and Britt. So this is about city property that we manage anyway. So if you want to plant trees in your front yard, go for it. Just know that you're responsible for it. But I think we do a really good job of managing city property. Most of the trees in this town are beyond useful, safe life, and that's why they're coming down. Branches are falling on cars, they're falling during windstorms, and then we have to send our staff out to collect the branches. A lot of good citizens brush them off onto the side, but they still need to be collected and brought to the burn pile. So at this point, I think this is overkill, and I will not be supporting moving it forward. Thank you.
Councilor Motley?
Okay, and I agree with you. I'm at these meetings and I'm, the face of the city council. So what should I be bringing back at the next meeting, or that the council doesn't support this, period? Or, because, they're gonna say this has been going on since '23. So, can I have some direction, just that we're not moving this forward and the city's gonna do what they want? Or, is there something that I can give back to them so they don't feel like they're being ignored? Thank you.
Councilor Bachschnider?
I don't necessarily have an answer to your question right now, but I have a different question for clarification. So Brian, you've reviewed this policy. Did you draft this policy, or who drafted the policy? Okay, so he's shaking his head. Who drafted the policy?
The Park
tree
and Rec
board did.
Commission.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
It's part of the tree board there.
Do we feel that it would maybe be a reasonable compromise to have our attorney draft a policy that we feel is amenable to everyone, and potentially take out some of this is a long policy, so potentially take out some of what our attorney would think is reasonable? Is that reasonable? Brian, what are your thoughts?
So I can just give a couple of brief thoughts. So number one, what I'm hearing in the conversation, I don't want to put words into anybody's mouth or formulate something that's not the position of the council, but what it sounds like is the message to deliver back to the tree board or to the board is that while this tree policy is extensive and thorough, it may go a little bit beyond what our normal policies of this kind would touch, and it would take some of the discretion away from the Public Works Department that may be necessary to ensure the public safety. And we need to, as a city, streamline this policy a little bit so we can affect its purposes without needlessly encumbering the public works or tying the hands of the council or the city in moving forward with new construction projects or tree maintenance that promote safety and the like.
So if I may interject a little bit, is it okay? I know this is going to probably raise the ire of many people, particularly those who worked really hard on this tree policy. But we have an ordinance that's in place. And I think the ordinance addresses everything. The ordinance covers everything. If we just want to make sure that we inform that the counselor who sits on the liaison for this Park and Rec Commission, that when we do a project and the decision is made by staff in which to remove trees because we need to do so under the ordinance that currently exists, that we can just let them know, hey, there's a construction project going on there, just be, you can say, you can tell them, whoever the liaison is, that, hey, we have a construction project going on, just let you know that some trees are going to be cut down, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. We already have a planting program available for those who want trees replanted in their own yard as opposed to the boulevard. So all that's already in place. So I don't know what the need is for a tree policy. Thank you. Councilor Motley.
So, thank you. Is there any way you can, Brian, that what you just said, could you type something up and either have it be sent on behalf, if the council is amenable, on behalf of the council to the Parks and Rec Commission? Is that make sense, or should it come from me, or what here?
Well, okay, let's go in order of discussion here. A question to you, Brian, with respect to that, and then maybe we can have Jim weigh in, and then we can go to Councilor Paulson, and then back over to Councilor Bachschneider. Brian.
Thank you, Mayor. So from my perspective, I'm happy to reach out, and essentially what I could do is just reach out and indicate that I've been assigned a more extensive review and revision of the policy, and that I'll return something that's more in line with what the city's intent is as it relates to the policy. But it's the council's discretion how I move forward.
Okay, I would be fine with that, just because it will come back at the next meeting and it will be the same thing. So I would appreciate if the council is amenable to him being allowed to do that. Thank you.
And as long as the policy doesn't supersede what the ordinance says, right? I mean, so Jim, if you have some comments with respect to that, and then we'll move over to Councilor Paulson, then over to Councilor Bachschneider. Jim?
Yeah, I just want to make you aware, in my description of my job, I do hold the rights to remove trees during construction, safety, things like that. And we're not out there removing trees just because we want to. We're removing them because they're overgrown, they're diseased. They've heaved sidewalks, curb and gutters, they've done damage to infrastructure. I'm dealing with roots and sewer lines in several places right now. I've got guys cutting trees as we speak. And as we speak with them, the neighbors are coming out and saying, this tree's been dead for 10 years, we've wanted it cut. Nobody's done anything about it. Our list is long and it keeps getting larger. I don't have a problem replacing those trees even. Brian ordered 500 trees last year, I believe. We gave a bunch of trees to people. I don't even have a problem for, say, them putting a tree back in that boulevard. But if there's a construction project now, our goal is to kind of eliminate that buffer zone of that small 3-foot boulevard, because it would be easier for us to maintain the sidewalks in the city, where we could go with a grader and there's not trees in the way, and we could pull everybody's sidewalks on everybody's streets and clean them and keep them maintained. Also, like I say, the areas that are heaving, I mean, if you look on some of these sidewalks, I feel horrible for the elderly people trying to walk on them. And those are the conversations I have with the little widowed lady that's been there for 50 years. And I mean, the smiles on their face to see that they're not picking up 100 bags of leaves in the fall time again. That's what we're dealing with. I would rather see people take a tree and plant in their yard, but I'd like to also see it be back far enough where it's not going to damage our sidewalk or our infrastructure, so it stays out of that right of way. And we do have a right-of-way that kind of affects our utilities to keep that buffer. So, you know, that's how I feel things should be done and continue to be done. As far as us having the key to the city to be able to cut trees, you know, I get times of the year where, okay, I got a window here, the ground's frozen, I gotta go cut this off-take ditch so I can remove the trees and then I can go in there and ditch it. Or I gotta maintain it or whatever I might have to do. So that comes all the time, you know, there's storms or events or something that comes up where I need a tree. The last thing I have to do time for is go to a tree committee to give me approval on cutting a tree here or there. I'm all for trees. I don't live in the city, but I have trees all over my property in my yard. I love them. But they've outgrown where they are, and we've got to make some changes. And I know it does hurt some people.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it. Let's see, we're moving to Councilor Paulson, then Councilor Buckschneider, and then whoever else. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. When reading through this language, there's a lot of shall and must language, which I know does not normally enter into most of our type policies. And so for that actual reason, and it's throughout the entire policy, shall and must. So with that being said, I feel like this is way over, I wouldn't even say cumbersome, but the legal language in it, it doesn't sit right with me. And then regarding the actual ordinance, I'm not sure if when this was drafted, if they had the actual city ordinance, because I have read the city ordinance and it does deal with a lot of this. So I would like to see, and I don't know if that was discussed at any of the meetings, the actual, maybe pull up the ordinance that we do have on the books. But my concern moving forward is, as we're doing streets, and we are, we're completely, it's not just a mill and overlay, where we're completely doing infrastructure underneath, and those trees are obstructive. But I really feel that it would be very good for us to have a plan in place moving forward with some of that replanting, or find out a species of tree that isn't, if we leave some of that boulevard there. My idea would be to, widen the street, maybe leave one sidewalk with a boulevard on one side, and then actually widen the street so emergency vehicles can get through some of our narrow streets that we have, and that's up to, street and alley. But I guess what I would like to see is, when we do that, when we have a project, that should be in the project budget on the bidding, so that when all these trees, and some of those trees might be healthy, it's just the infrastructure is underneath is not healthy, so the street, it needs to be repaired. And so in doing that, I feel like maybe if we do some planning, and I don't know if our Park and Rec Commissioner has anything to do with that, but in this long document, it's requiring the city to have an arborist. We have funding problems as it is, but I would love to be able to see that if we do these projects where we are removing trees, we stipulate that some type of tree does go back in its place, and it would not be harmful to infrastructure, and it would be part of the bidding process when doing our infrastructure process. Projects. That's just me talking one person, but I feel like that might help alleviate some of the citizen concern because our plan is we're redoing a lot of after we lost the steam in our infrastructure, our streets are maybe caving in some areas. We are being forced to do this, so maybe we should come up with some sort of a development plan regarding trees with construction projects specifically.
And I'm glad you brought that point up, because that is something we have been doing with SEH Engineering. We've been looking to see, like 20th Street South is one that's on the books for this summer. We looked at what we could work with sidewalks there, but then we look at utilities, so we got power poles that sit there, so it eliminates, okay, we can't put trees there, but we can kick the sidewalk. And then we get into some of the smaller streets, say the 500 blocks, 600 blocks of 10th, 11th streets, they're narrow. Great idea. I mean, put sidewalks on one side, put some trees on the other side, kick things back, open the road up more. And that's stuff we're looking into. I'm all for the trees in the right spaces. And the only trees we are removing are trees that are city-owned trees or on city property. If they're on private property, I get a written agreement for whoever the homeowner is. We have an easement through their business owner, whatever it might be. We get an easement and a signed paperwork to authorize us to do that also. So.
Thank you for that. And I guess what I would say to the Park and Rec Commission, those that are concerned about trees, I feel like maybe we just haven't talked about it enough because things are being done to address, how we're moving forward and what concerns are. But our ordinance is we have a pretty good ordinance in place. So maybe if we just, maybe just have a meet and confer as there's projects on the books, maybe we say, here's the tree plan for the project. And maybe that will maybe it's just more communication, I don't know. But I feel that this specific policy is way too intrusive, and the language is not necessarily technical legal language that I would ever see us using in any other document. So that's where I'm coming from. Thank you.
Thank you. But before we go to Councilor Bachschnider, like I said earlier, the ordinance suffices, in my opinion. Thank you for addressing the issues of the tree board. The Park and Rec Commission has been designated as being the tree board, which moves on to who? Our department head, which is Brian Silber. Whenever a project is moving forward, maybe we should just raising the eye, or once again, we don't need the tree board. Why would we have to have a tree board? We have ordinance in place. We have staff to take care of that. Park and Rec Commission is available for that. We have a liaison. We have a Park and Rec director that can articulate that to the Park and Rec Commission on moving forward. So why would we don't have a board for most everything else? Why would we have a tree board? And I think that was inherited by the Park and Rec Commission as we move forward. So I think they took it upon themselves. And I sat in on a few of those meetings where they I field questions as to why aren't we being notified, and why are we doing this, and why are we doing that? We are the tree board. We're the ones who are responsible for this. And I made it clear that your recommendation, it's a policy, it's a recommendation. You're an advisory board. We make those decisions. We have to keep and maintain the authority of that. So I think the ordinance suffices. You want to make a little adjustments to tweak that, I'm fine with that. I don't necessarily understand why we need a policy when we already have an ordinance in place. So, Councilor Bachschnider.
Thank you. I'll move to direct city staff to provide the council and mayor on our tree stands based on existing ordinance language. And I can say that again if you want me to.
Direct staff, that would include some research and maybe some language from our attorney working with staff. Is that kind of where you're going?
Yep, on our existing tree stance based on existing ordinance language.
Okay. Is that clear? Is there support for that?
Support for discussion?
Support by Councilor Motley. Further discussion? Councilor Motley.
Would that be to be brought to the Parks and Rec Commission so they're aware type thing, or?
Yep, and so that we're all aware as well. What does our current ordinance say? And then we can move forward with the Parks and Rec Commission to let them know as well, but based on our existing ordinance language. And I'm saying tree stance because I don't want to say policy. I don't know if stance is the right word, but.
Yeah, and I know that the Park and Rec Commission is well aware of the ordinance. And so it's they're the tree board, so they feel that they should be able to, interject and make decisions based upon that. And saying that their advisory wasn't enough, so that's why this ordinance was proffered. So it has been moved and supported to direct staff to take a look at the ordinance, communicate, and then to Park and Rec, and to make it clear what our stance is on on the policy as it currently is being proffered. Is that correct or not?
Not necessarily the policy, just what
Okay.
is our
Okay.
current ordinance language?
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you. All
Thank
right. Further discussion? Anybody? Counselor Freely?
I just hope that that clarifies the issue and nobody is left stumped.
Nicely done. I give you a round of applause for that one. Okay, thank you. Counselor Beyondich.
Thank you, and thank you for that. As I've read through the ordinances in the city, and there are several different places in different ordinances that address a lot of what this is addressing. So I would agree, I think it needs to just be simplified. I've dealt with a few people that have actually requested trees to come down. They're fearful of it falling on their car or their house. And this weekend, when my grandson was here, we had trouble walking the sidewalk because we have gaps this big. So in the dark, I said, let's walk on the street. Thank you.
Thank you. It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 11 is review the proposed ordinance modifying Chapter 11, subsection 11.5. And this change is to change the way we calculate the fees for the permits. Right now, it's listed in our ordinance how we calculate the fees, but we're going to go to a fee schedule that we approve by resolution. So this change in ordinance allows a resolution to approve the fee schedule for permit fees.
So moved.
I'll move to approve by Counselor Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
By Counselor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Paulson.
I just was a little confused. Could you just clarify that for me?
Right now, our ordinance specifically states that permit fees are calculated on the equivalent of 1/2 mil of the evaluation of the structure or the project. We're changing it to a higher dollar amount instead of the 0.005 half mil of the project amount to state that all permit fees will be in accordance with the fee schedule adopted by resolution of the council.
And then does that fee schedule need to be added? I mean, we approved the fee schedule.
Yep.
So will that be added by resolution after we do this then?
We
Like,
probably have to do it again
redo
after we do the ordinance.
That's what I was confused
Yeah.
about.
So our goal is July 1 to
Okay.
get this,
Okay.
get the fees approved. So we're hoping the ordinance is approved and then we'll do the fee schedule again.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mayor.
I'm pretty sure, Brian, am I speaking right?
Okay, thank you. Further discussion, Counselor Johnson.
And then that makes it less cumbersome in the future if we need to raise them again, instead of having to change the ordinance every time. Now we do it by resolution. We can do it annually or biannually. So it allows us to continue to generate the amount of revenue we need to be able to balance the budget specifically and the budget in total. Thank you.
Thank you. Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. And item number 12 is approve the resolution declaring items as surplus and allowing for an auction of surplus items.
I'll move to approve.
Move to approve by Counselor Motley and supported by Counselor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Any other items to come before the committee of the whole meeting? Seeing none, we will adjourn our committee of the whole meeting. It is 10:30 a.m. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. We stand adjourned.